What's going on, you guys? Welcome back to another episode of the 904 Fishing Podcast. As always, I am your host, Alex, joined by my co-host, Nick.
What's going on, everybody? Long time no see,
It's
but
been a,
here we are.
it's been a minute. It's been a minute, but
Been several minutes.
more than one. Joining us on today's episode is my little brother, Matthew. Matt.
Hello.
He lives down south of Jacksonville, and he went fishing today. So we're gonna get his insight and perspective on how the fishing conditions are looking post hurricane. Nick and I did go out this past Sunday, and it was, boy howdy, it was just a doozy of a day. But we're gonna get into that a little more later. Today's topic is gonna be kayak fishing and fishing after a hurricane and how that affects things and whatnot. Matt, you want to kick it off and let us know, what you were seeing out there today?
Yeah. Yeah, so for the most part, we got out there about 3 hours before tide change.
Solid timing.
Yeah. So we fished those 3 hours, but wind was blowing south to about a little southwest, about 20 knots, which was a little less than ideal. But the problem we were running into, really, besides the wind, was the discolorization of the water post-hurricane.
What's that looking like?
Yeah, I mean, it's within maybe 4 inches in the water. If I dropped, my shrimp or a mullet, I couldn't see it at all.
4 inches of visibility?
That's
You're
pretty
kidding.
bad.
Yeah. So it was a little rough. Yeah.
A little,
Is
I
there
should
any
say.
brackish that feeds over there, or was that just like mouth from the ocean?
I mean, it's a good 5-6 miles from the mouth.
But still,
So,
you shouldn't be seeing that kind of.
No.
Yeah.
Now, Matt, have
that's-
you been to this spot before?
Yeah. I fished it a good bit actually.
What did the water look like? Like the water conditions, what do they typically look like? Is this normal or is this drastically different?
Yeah, no, not at all. Definitely drastically different. Usually I can see within a good 2 to 3 feet in the water visibility, but no, this
man.
hurricane, yeah, it just stirred everything up, I guess. And
That's
that, all the wind factor, and then plus the wind today. I mean, no, really, the wind hasn't gone below 10 to 15 knots post hurricane. Now with this hurricane, the eye pretty much came directly over Daytona here where I'm at right now.
Dang.
So this is my first time ever going through something like that, obviously. But
Right.
yeah, it was
oh,
a
you've
little
never
bit of
been through a
learning
hurricane?
experience. Not really, no, honestly.
Not like that.
Oh man.
No. Yeah,
Dang.
Well, it's something, ain't it?
yeah. So luckily for us, there was a lot more damage closer to the beach side, but where I live, we had a couple trees come down. There was a big 18-foot palm tree that came down. But other people, for the most part, it's just really just a lot of flooding, drywall damage. A lot of trees down. There was some people without power for, I think they were without power for, I think, 3 to 4 days almost.
God, Lord.
I think there's still some people without power in
There
certain areas too, especially
Yeah.
on the Gulf Coast.
Yeah, well, this is just on the East Coast right now. Like, there's some people here in Daytona without power, so I can only imagine what people on the West Coast, especially Tampa area, what they're going through.
I wouldn't want to know, but
Yeah.
I know that I've helped a hurricane clean up for Dallas, his dad actually last year.
Yeah.
I think around this time over there in Crystal River, and I mean that house is on one of those canals where there's a bunch of houses on the canals. 1 second. I had to clear my throat.
Oh, good.
Yeah, the water level inside the house, I mean, was every bit of probably 3.5 feet, almost 4
gosh.
feet. And, like what you said, drywall damage. We pretty much had to demo damn near the whole house.
Yeah.
And it sucks because, you see it on TV, you see it on YouTube, you see videos of the damage and stuff. But then whenever you really see it in person and seeing
Yeah, when you're
everybody
there,
else's
yeah.
houses
No,
damaged
exactly.
by it and affected by it, and everybody's having to essentially throw away all of their
Yeah.
belongings that got flooded, it really puts it into perspective. And
It's a very surreal experience, that's for sure.
yeah, and luckily, I mean, with how Floridians are, they do group up together and help their neighbors during times of disaster like that. And
I've noticed that, a lot of Floridians, there's not a ton of, like, oh, well, you're on your own. We all come together kind of as a community, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, restaurants end up helping out, for food.
Oh, yeah.
Like my buddy, my buddy works for Firehouse, and they've been making all kinds of meals to send up to the mountains, up in North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia, and all over Florida too. And I mean, they've been making little meal kits and everything too. So it's good to see at least that humanity is still there.
Right. Absolutely.
It's super rough too. And I mean, just even the more videos that come out, I mean, we're seeing first person perspective of what this storm was like as it was coming in and damage. I actually just watched one of the tornado videos from, I think, like Deerfield or somewhere south of Daytona. And I mean, yikes! That was like a tornado that we don't get tornadoes like that in Florida.
No.
And yeah, not great. But I don't know. I don't want to jinx anything. It's still the hurricane season.
Well, Nick, we went out this past Sunday, and I want to say, I mean, honestly, I was expecting it to be a lot like more. I don't even know. Like, I expected it to be worse conditions really when we went out Sunday, and we went out kayaking, and we put in. The wind wasn't bad. The water was a little higher.
Oh, it was minty. It was glassy.
Yeah, the wind was a little higher than average, and the water was even a little higher than average. But I wouldn't say it was anything egregious. Nothing like I was actually expecting. You know what I'm saying? Whereas the conditions that Matthew are describing down south, I mean, it's the drastic changes, and we even had good water clarity. I feel like down here.
Yeah, we did. We were able to, as the tide started going out, I was able to stumble across a pretty neat little sandbar that I don't know if that's been there from before. I mean, granted, we kind of just got skirted by the hurricane after it already passed over land. But I mean, from going out to St. Augustine and looking at the damn ocean, we see how gnarly that was. But yeah, the fact that, it seems, I'm sure that all that bait and fish, they must have just gotten pushed further in the creeks and, just further in there. Excuse me. Sorry. But yeah, it definitely, it seemed like a pretty normal day. It is strange though, how after these hurricanes pass over, literally the next day, I mean, it was sunny, clear, not a cloud in the sky.
Yep. We've had good weather all week, I feel like.
Oh yeah, and today was lovely. A bit chilly today.
It was. The temperature, my lord. Matt, how's the temperature looking down there?
About noon, it was about 68 degrees, which was really surprising.
68, wow.
About same up here, yeah. Windy as hell too.
Yeah, that plus the wind factor and the humidity, I'm sure real feel was probably, realistically about, 62 to 65 down on the water where we were today.
Oh yeah.
And that's definitely going to help the trout and the snook and all kinds of stuff.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, because it seems, I mean, Alex says it was a doozy of a day.
On Sunday.
On Sunday, and I'm not going to spoil it, but it definitely, it was like a doozy halfway, I'd say. Granted, I can't spoil it too much, but, as far as fishing goes, it was pretty all right. I think the fishing.
I was about to say, I thought the fishing for our first time being there, I feel like it went pretty well.
Not for me, but that's okay.
Well, that's one thing.
And try it out.
And, well, that's why they call it fishing, not catching.
I hate it.
And that's one of the things that I wanted to go over in the podcast today is Nick and I, when we went out, we discussed like, all the baits that we were using and how we had all these different style rods and how we had big rods to go out and try to do some shark fishing, and we had smaller rods to go out and do some like intercoastal creek fishing, and we just had all this gear and all this stuff and all this tackle and all these baits and all these lures, and we decided that when this last trip, when we were going to go out, we were going to just focus, one bait, one rod, Or not one rod, but one style rod, I should say.
One length rod.
Right,
Both
exactly, yeah.
7-footers.
I was about to say we went with a standard, typically a smaller rod, and we targeted, trout, redfish, flounder, stuff like that. Lures, a lot of the time we had some live shrimp out there. But honestly, that kind of bit us in the butt because
Yeah.
we had shrimp out there. We had live shrimp out there. And Nick, how many mullet you think we saw out there?
Yes.
All of them. Every single bit of them. There was
and yeah. So the problem is, right? You always, you don't want to get too much bait because you don't want to be wasteful.
Yeah.
And you don't want to spend all that money. Or let's say if you're getting your own bait, I mean, just use what you know that you're going to use.
Yeah.
However, you need to match the hatch. I've always heard that. Heard that from Dallas and his dad, and it's right. It's true. I don't think that we're not like gonna see shrimp swimming out there. I would think. I mean, sometimes you'll see them, but
not
for the
like we
amount
were
of
seeing that mullet. That yeah.
Yeah, for the amount of mullet that we've seen, I should have went with my gut feeling because I had the cast net before we even got out in the kayaks.
We were even thinking like, should we throw it?
Yeah,
but
we're coming out of
that shrimp
mullet season though, aren't we?
I don't know. There were a bunch of little.
It depends,
mullet.
yeah. So, I mean, the mullet run, like, obviously it changes every year a little. We generally have the same kind of gist and time frame, but when it comes to the mullet, like the weather affects it a lot, obviously. And I feel like, personally, this hurricane that went through down south is keeping the mullet here longer.
Yeah.
Because the mullet should be more or less moved down south towards, you, Matt. Are you seeing a lot of mullet down there?
I mean, I didn't see too much today.
No, because it's only 4 inches of clarity in the water.
Yeah.
Well, that was part of the issue. But I did go to 2 different bait shops today, and they only had mullet. They didn't have mud minnows, shrimp, or anything else. Only mullet. So maybe we are still in the mullet run right now.
I mean, it seems like it happens twice.
You got like the precursors, and then you got the big ones that come through.
Yeah, well, I was about to say the mullets that I did get today from the bait shop, they were good, probably, I don't know, 4 to 6 inch mullets.
Average.
Yeah, it's solid average.
Yeah,
it's a good size for bait. I mean,
honestly, I would say that's pretty big.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty good size. It's one would say perfect size, really.
Right? That's what I'm thinking exactly. It's versatile.
You can throw them on a 2-aught circle hook. You can throw them on a jig head, and you're not just throwing around a massive bait out there. You're gonna want to actually. It's gonna attract the fish that are gonna be able to eat it. So and when we used out there, what we used out there. Was popping cork and jig head because we figured those two would be solid.
Yep.
Now, this is where it gets a little tricky because I like to bring the 8-footer so that way I can have something set up with a Carolina rig.
Yeah.
That's a little bit beefier because who knows what? I mean, if you're bottom fishing with live bait, I mean your odds go up to from big red, small red, catfish, trout, maybe flounder, shark, stingray. And, so I get why I'm always adamant about wanting to bring an 8-footer and a 7-footer. I just like to have the options. But I pretty much was mainly trying pop and cork, and that was working. I just don't know.
Would you say it popped off?
Not really. It did for a second. But
yeah, for a little bit there.
I kept getting little bites. We did see like a 3.5 foot. I think it was either an Atlantic sharp nose or probably an Atlantic sharp nose, swimming through the creek, just kind of tailing through there. But I definitely want to get out again because I feel like knowing now. I mean, it seems like what people are catching stuff on is. I mean, I'm seeing people saying live shrimp. I'm seeing people say mud minnows. I'm seeing people say finger mullet, blue crab, fiddlers.
Yeah.
but I think it just depends on the area. And that was our first time going out there, so we'll have the chance to get out there again. And I'm definitely going to try things a little bit differently.
Yeah.
I'm just going to put the blame that it was just so fresh after the storm. Maybe.
Solid. That's what I'm going with, honestly, you know.
But, you know, that's the thing about fishing, new spots and even spots that you know. You know, it's going to be a little different every time.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can go out there one day, kill it with one type of bait, or just artificial, and then try it again and nothing.
Yeah. Well, the water that you're fishing, you know, last weekend versus this weekend is completely different water as well. You know, there's
100%.
no such a thing as, you know, the same water, so conditions are you know, constantly changing.
Definitely. And that's one of the things that I'm looking at, you know, when we're going out this upcoming Sunday, because I have to go out this upcoming Sunday and go fishing because I have a new product to review. Looking forward to that. It's the Canfish Fishing Cam X.
Nice.
It's one of those underwater, you tie it to your line and then the bait and it records it. So I'm excited to get out there and try this out. I'm going to do some trolling for some trout probably.
Has that product came out yet?
It is, as far as I'm aware. Yeah. I'll put a link in the chat for you guys because I'm excited to try it out. I recorded a couple test videos with it, just like holding it, and it's pretty cool. And there's a lot of features that I'm going to be going over in my video. I'm very excited about that because I've used these before and I wasn't too impressed with it, which is why I never, you know, put the videos out on YouTube. But I'm very excited to see how this is going to go with the conditions that we're going to be in.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm curious what the water's going to look like when you go out there, and then how that camera is going to perform as well. Because I've been looking at buying one, but the problem is, you know, a lot of them they just don't do the job that I want them to do, regardless of, you know, water clarity.
Yeah, I'd like to see it as well. I should be good to go for Sunday. I do have some side work, i.e., hurricane. I've got a tree that I got to cut up. I don't necessarily have to do it this weekend, although if I can work out
you can do it on Saturday. You'll be all right.
Well, it's quite the tree.
Now, when you say tree,
I say fully blown over, uprooted tree.
Now, when you say tree, do you mean like are we talking like a 10-foot tree?
No, this one's probably like 40 feet.
Oh, good. Feet. Okay, like a proper hang a swing from. Take pictures. Take pictures for prom in front of oak tree. We're talking about a proper tree.
Yeah, it's a scrub oak.
A real tree.
A real tree.
Here, I'll send you a couple pictures so you can get an idea for it. Coming through Discord now. Yeah, I'm gonna have Dallas help me.
Bet.
I reckon, just depending if he's free. If not, I mean,
yeah.
But
that's a good one.
It's just gonna be a full day, and then I don't know if. Well, I probably would still go kayaking the next day.
Do you have a chainsaw?
Oh yeah.
Good. So you're gonna need one. You're gonna. Oh god.
Yeah, I will say, in my past experience, I rented a chainsaw from Home Depot. I will not make that mistake ever again.
Oh no, what happened?
Oh.
The blade was completely dull.
Yep. That tracks.
And the guy, the chainsaw or the whatever technician guy that worked there, he had the chain too tight. So I brought it back to him. I was like, hey, like, you know, the chain needs to be replaced. It keeps popping off. And it's also very dull. Or, you know, the chain needs to be sharpened. So he replaced it with another used chain. And it was equally as dull as the first one. So
good.
Yeah.
Well, noted.
So if you rent one from there, be sure that you check the blade before walking out the store.
That's a good point, because honestly, you know, when people rent them, it's probably just, you know, people just trying to do some DIY. If they don't own a chainsaw, they definitely don't use one. So I guarantee you, when they were cutting up logs or something, it was going straight into the ground.
Oh
while
yeah.
They were cutting through. They didn't have them up off the ground some. Yeah, we got some chainsaws to do that, but I'll be honest, folks, I don't really I would much rather Go cut this tree up and make the money from that, then go to work next week because I could do it in a day. But I digress.
Now, Nick, let me ask you this. If we had somebody listening in that needed Masic services, where could they contact you?
Oh, well, I'm glad that you asked, and I appreciate that because I was going to shamelessly plug it at the next opening spot. So, yeah, if anybody has anything, I own Masic Outdoor Services. It's on Facebook, MACIK Outdoor Services, MOS for short. Yeah, I've cleaned some gutters before the hurricanes came through, blown some roofs off, and cleaned gutters after the hurricanes. Cleaned up the yards, get them looking right again. I do pressure washing, cutting up trees. I'm not going to climb the tree.
Right.
Now,
you more clean up down trees.
Yeah, I'll do that, or I can do some tree trimming too. I'm cool with that. But you're not going to see me up there doing Cirque du Soleil. That you can call a tree company for, because I do not have the skill set for that, or the I don't have that kind of dog in me. But I mean, in all seriousness, yes, I give free estimates. I always take very much pride in my work, and I'm not out there. Yes, I am there to make some money, but it's a side hustle, and I know that, I'm there to essentially help the people out, and I'm not trying to rip them off. I'm not trying to price gouge. I base off of what other market prices are for services, and then I just adjust my price from there. Typically lower, but the quality of work is higher.
So
I'd say some of the companies that I've seen.
Yeah. So on another point though, post hurricane, how does that exactly affect fish behavior just in general?
Yeah, I mean, something like that is one of the things that a lot of people don't think about. And when it comes to having those hurricanes, you got to think of, we're getting a bunch of extra water. We're getting a ton of water dumped in the area.
Yeah.
So the water's going to be higher.
Salinity.
The salinity is going to go down, which is big, because the species that you're going to see that can kind of flow a little more freely in between that salinity content, like redfish and flounder, stuff like that.
Gators.
You'll that's true, actually. Yeah. You'll find those more prevalent in the creeks than you will, say, a species that relies more heavily on that saltwater content. So you'll find the fish typically pushed further back into the creeks, or at least in more protected areas. Nick and I found the opening to a creek this past weekend when we went out that was popping off quite heavily, I would say.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And then we went back through it, and then just like that, there was really not a lot of activity.
Yep.
Granted, what was that? That was probably dead low, honestly.
Yeah, I think so.
But it seemed prime time. Like, that honestly seemed like it'd be really good during incoming tide.
Yeah.
Probably like an hour and a half till high tide. I feel like, or 2 hours up to high tide, or 2 hours as tide's going out. I think that would probably be a money spot through there, but
I agree.
it had all the signs, and then there was some big old egrets or herons.
Yeah.
I'm not a bird expert. That were in the bushes that they started making sounds that kind of was almost like And Alex was like, "Did you hear that?" And I was like, "Yeah, but I'm really hoping it's not
a gator."
What I'm thinking you're saying. I'm
still convinced it was a gator.
Nah, dude.
I'm telling you, from the sound. Look, I'm just saying. I've heard birds and I've heard gators. It didn't sound like a bird to me.
Well, I'm gonna say that it was the two birds possibly mating, or they're just.
It's not that time of year.
Oh, maybe they listened to DJ Tiesto on the flight over there, so they had that in their head. I don't know.
My Lord, this guy's talking about. Well, the birds were listening to techno, Alex. Obviously, that's way more realistic than finding a gator. Come on, be real.
It's trance, actually.
It's actually Euro underground trance beat.
It's actually Eurostep. Eurobeat? Damn, whatever.
It's actually pre-modern Amish Eurobeats, so you probably haven't heard of it.
It's actually
The birds just flew it in.
it's actually underground UK garage drum and bass with samples from different Pulp Fiction movies or Pulp Fiction scenes.
You probably haven't heard it.
Yeah, you wouldn't you wouldn't get it.
Oh Lord, but I'm looking forward to this weekend, getting out there and doing some trolling, because that's predominantly what I'm going to be doing. I think is trolling some lures around and trying some different artificials, just trolling behind me while I'm going around. And I think that's going to do.
It seems like that works. I mean,
you can cover. It's true. You can cover a lot of areas, and especially where Nick and I were this past weekend. I haven't even looked at the tides for it yet, but where we were this past weekend, I feel like, being able to explore it a little more will really help when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Yeah, maybe you can bring your paddle next time.
I agree. I should bring my paddle next time, because I did not bring my paddle this past time.
Good thing you didn't need it, though, Mr. Pedal Drive.
It's true.
And you just have to fix your pedal drive?
He sure did.
I sure did.
With
Fix, I guess.
Fix is a word. That is a descriptive word.
Solidify.
Finalize.
Solidify is a great adjective for what I did to that pedal drive.
Permanent.
It's permanent. It ain't coming off. Ever.
So another point though is with when hurricanes come through post-hurricane, your typical spots where fish sit,
right?
With the water being moved around, does that change like a good your average honey hole, or how does that apply?
I would say so.
Yeah, it's definitely going to change a lot of the stuff that's going to, what standard, like, oh, I fished here before, I know where to go fish. Yeah. That's going to change because the underwater, the topography is going to drastically change as well.
Yeah, especially with how that current was moving.
Oh, yeah.
That was our first time, so we don't know exactly
how
that
current was moving.
But I guarantee you, with unfortunate news, that I guarantee you that, for instance, the sandbars out at the beach, those are
changed
a lot
completely.
Different.
Yeah.
And I mean, even before the hurricane came through, but even before Milton came through, there was a nor'easter. And actually, whenever me and Katie were on our honeymoon, we were down there at Beecher's Lodge, and I was like, dang, there's some people out there surfing. I want to go fish, but the water's looking pretty rough. And there was I was getting all kinds of alerts of rip current warnings and just pretty much it's been rip current warnings. Oh, dude, for the past, I don't know, 4 weeks.
Yeah.
I'd say probably 3 weeks for sure.
Yep.
And unfortunately, a couple people, I think, drowned out near Ponte Vedra, near Mickler's last weekend. Yeah, because the rip current's been so gnarly. And I mean, when me and Alex went out there on Thursday to Volano and St. Augustine area.
That was fun.
Yeah. Mother of God, dude.
Oh,
you
my
couldn't
Lord.
have paid me to go out there in that water.
Nope. And there were people surfing out there.
Yeah, I think they were surfing more St. Augustine, A Street areas, or Jack's Beach, Ponte Vedra, but
no, remember, we saw them out of Porpoise Point.
Oh, yeah, they were. They were surfing right there. Just some little small breakers. I say small breakers, but the small breakers were 4 to 6 feet.
I was about to say.
It said average waves were 12, 10. It was 8 to 12, and then the max waves were 20 foot. Which
the swells or the waves?
The waves.
Wow.
And the significant waves were 20 feet?
Yeah.
That's absolutely ridiculous.
That's like California West Coast kind of waves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's like pipeline in Hawaii.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which, after Hurricane Matthew, after that one came through back in 2017, I went out surfing a couple days later. Perfect sunny day. There was no wind. It was a very slight offshore wind. And couldn't have been more than 5 miles an hour, and the waves were stacked up 9 to 11 foot with like 11-second wave intervals or wave periods.
Wow.
And I tell you what, I went out there and I absolutely got destroyed by a couple waves. Went and sat on the beach for a little bit to really kind of, okay. And then I went out there and I surfed. It had to be. I mean, it was definitely like a 10-foot wave because it was definitely overhead. I'm 5'11", for sure, and yeah, those are some of the best waves I've ever surfed. I was able to. I don't even know how far I paddled out, but they were ripping that day, and easily the best waves I've ever surfed. Clean, glassy. Even had the little mist blow over the top of the wave as it was breaking.
Oh, nice.
But I mean, there was like a lot of debris in the water, so yeah. Typically after hurricanes, don't recommend it because there's gonna be so much stuff stirred up in there. I mean, what happens every time too, even whenever we get bad flooding down in St. Augustine, is you get sewage leaks. I mean, that's usually the first thing when the water starts rising. Usually the sewers first is what spill into the streets during storm surge, and then that gets passed along through the different waterways and all that. But
yeah, well, we even dealt with some of that up here too. Like, I came
sure.
the day after Milton hit, I came back down to Daytona, and there's a sewage drain right next to our house. And that feeds from a cul-de-sac, but the problem is they don't level the cul-de-sac right, so it's just like a big pool there constantly. Now, luckily, our house is raised up about probably 3 to 4 feet from the bottom of the street. But yeah, there was. I was looking at the drain, and sure enough, water wasn't even draining into the drain; it was coming out of it a little bit.
Yep. Which is scary, because
yeah.
that's just wild. That's just what starts flowing first. But I mean, it's definitely a rough time of year because, yeah, the hurricanes are exciting, but and we get off work, but also, there's people, they got their whole lives taken from them.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So
Houses.
it's a shame. Yeah,
ridiculous.
and it just shows that, if where you're gonna live, you gotta really do your research. I'm going off topic, so I'm gonna stop it there.
We bet. No worries. We do it every time. Half the time we end up talking about cars.
Well,
now
not too late.
It's not too late. Oh my Lord. Now let me ask you guys this before we wrap up because I'm starving and need to eat dinner. Now when it comes to fishing in like low visibility conditions and stuff, what kind of baits and what kind of lures specifically are you guys going to be targeting and looking to use in those conditions?
Nick, I'll let you handle this one because I still do not use lures too much. I'm more of a live bait kind of guy. But
that's well, hang on, that's relevant, Matt. So even in low conditions, you're gonna stick with using live bait.
Yeah.
Okay, why is that?
Real answer is I don't know what lures to use.
Okay, and hey,
hold on. What was the question? What was the question again? I'm sorry.
Can you read it back? In like low visibility conditions in the water, not like at night, in low visibility conditions, are you guys going to be using, flashy lures, rattling lures, vibrating lures? Like what kind of baits and lures are you guys going to be using in those low visibility water conditions post hurricane to attract fish? And what kind of fish are you hoping to attract with those lures and baits?
All right, I got just the answer for you. So
hit me with it.
A while ago, I learned smack. Sorry, Squinch spooked the cat. But what I've learned that if the water's dark and murky, you're gonna want to go ahead and try to find like a more natural color, like a more darker color lure.
That's interesting. I'm gonna
shad, paddle tail, whatever along the lines. And then when the water is clear, you're gonna want to use a brighter color, silver, white,
and that's
a little bit of lime green on the tail. Just so that way it's flashy because they'll be able to see it from farther away.
Yeah.
And then also add to the darker lure with the darker, more murky water, I guess because it stands out more as a darker shadow than what it would be as if it were a brighter color.
Well,
But,
let me ask this,
however,
Nick. Let me ask this. So a lot of people are, and this is a common mistake that a lot of people make, and I've been making it as recently as 4 days ago. When the water is dark and murky like that, people tend to think, oh, the water's dark and murky, I need something that's going to stand out more, so I'm going to go with like a white paddle tail, like a white soft plastic. Why wouldn't they?
Kind of like I did.
Right, exactly. So why should we not use those kind of baits when the water is murky? Wouldn't it make more sense for them to stand out and get more, distinction in the water?
It would, and I don't know why, because I can't figure it out myself.
Okay. All right. Interesting. Matt, do you know why?
No, but I did want to ask one question though. When it does come to using lures, what's more important or efficient, using a lure that makes more sound or versus a lure that matches the color or what you're trying to target?
Ooh.
I say match the hatch because it.
Yeah,
it
I'm gonna
rhymes,
say
and it's a
rhymes.
very widely used fishing term for baits. Now, I don't know because
I'm gonna say
sound?
not sound because and here's why. Here's my basis off this. Your standard mullet and bait fish and stuff like that, mud minnows, whatever, they're not going to be making a ton of noise in the water. So if it looks right, if it looks right, then the fish will go after it. As opposed to like, yeah, you might get more attention and more fish looking at it. And maybe that's something that I can explore with this underwater camera. But I feel like you might get more reaction bites potentially, but you'll get more bites if it looks right. And that falls back again on that match the hatch kind of deal.
I would agree because I think really the only time that if you're going to be using anything like a rattle trap, I feel like I've only really used rattle traps freshwater fishing, or if you're going to do like a popping cork.
Well, that's what I was going to mention too, is using a popping cork, because what I typically do is I use like live shrimp or live mud minnows on a popping cork, and then I jig it up and down to create a little bit of sound. Now, right now, that hasn't been too efficient, but anything else I've used has not been efficient either. So I'm still kind of curious, about that whole realm of sound versus how it looks,
Right,
yeah.
Right.
I was going to say another thing, too, that I feel like we kind of forgot. It's often forgotten. Free lining live bait.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that, too.
Because, the popping cork's easy because you can have the sound and you can have it float right above the oyster bed so you don't get hung up all the time. Or jig heads where you're definitely getting hung up all the time because that's just the way of the game. But honestly,
allegedly,
free lining bait, it seems like I forget about that one a lot just because, I want to be able to have good casting distance so that way I don't get right on top of the fish and spook them. But I guess it really just varies and depends on what the water depth is, water clarity, what other baits running around. And I mean, we were seeing all kinds of stuff blow up on these mullet, but it was weird. Like we just couldn't, we'd cast right at it with paddle tails.
Yep.
You name it. And it seemed like we just couldn't. I almost threw the spoon on because I was like, you know what? It's sunny and the water's clear enough.
And that flash, I do feel like, So, overall, I'm looking forward to it. You guys keep an eye out. I got a video coming out tomorrow. I don't know which one yet. I don't know if it's going to be Nick and I going around St. Augustine or if it's going to be, our last kayaking trip. Or I actually have a video I need to work on and put out. It's just so darn hard to do. Matthew, Randall, and I, which Randall is our older brother. He's not been on the podcast yet, but he's going to be soon. We went offshore on a charter, and that was a good old silly goose time. So keep an eye out for that. But yeah, I got a couple videos I need to stop messing around and.
Hey, I mean, maybe you could give them a double hurricane, double video treat in the week. I don't know. I know you got it planned though. I know you got your methods.
Yeah. But all right, you guys. Anything else to add before we call it for the night?
Yeah, I'm about to hit up my buddy Patrick and see how much he wants to sell some STI front axles for.
There's the car stuff. I knew it.
There we go. Yeah.
There it is.
Well, that's about it on my end.
Yeah.
You know,
Matt,
that
thank
was
you
my
for
day,
joining us.
Yeah, no, I
Yeah,
really
dude.
appreciate you having me on. Thank you.
Yeah, you know,
Glad you're
and
here.
I like that we can get more of a wider range and perspective. You know, we got us here in Jacksonville. We got you there in Daytona, getting more range and you know, seeing what's what. And obviously, Nick and I are going to be doing some more fishing with Matthew down in Daytona as soon as Matthew decides to get a kayak.
Or weather permitting as well, yeah.
Weather permitting as well, right. So, I mean,
I would
we
even like to get down there and surf fish. I don't think I've
maybe
ever
do
surf
some
fished Daytona.
maybe do a
Yeah.
little snook action.
I will say, yeah, surf fishing and then fishing off the piers that go into the ocean. Extremely well fishing during the fall months, from my understanding.
Like
I
Ponce
did have,
Inlet?
but you said what?
Like Ponce Inlet?
Ponce Inlet. I do want to go down to Sebastian as well.
Sebastian,
Ooh,
that's
yeah,
a
yeah,
famous
yeah.
one. Yeah, oh yeah.
That's the
Yeah.
man-made one from the Army Corps of Engineers back after World War II.
Oh god,
It
don't
is.
get him started.
It was, you know, that was actually shown in a Band of Brothers as well.
All right.
Really?
All right. He's not wrong, but we're not getting off on this tangent. This is going to be a 45-minute tangent. We're not doing it.
I'll have you know, Band of Brothers.
We'd like to
desensitized
thank
me
you
when I was
guys.
7 years old.
We'd like to thank you guys for tuning into this episode of 904 Fishing. If you guys haven't yet, click that subscribe button, click the bell notification for when we go live. We are going to be doing our podcast back on its regular schedule every week. At the very least, me and Matt. At the very least, me. But I'm hoping to have some new people on, including Mike from Get Out in the House, Go Fish. Love to get him on here as well. And we're going to potentially be doing some live episodes out on the water or on the beach or something. Nick and I have been planning some stuff, so keep an eye out for that, you guys. Final thoughts, Matt and Nick?
Matt, you go ahead. You're the guest.
Well, that's got everything I wanted to say out, I think.
There you go.
You got one more.
I think that's it for me, Nick.
All right. Well, I was going to say camping weather's upon us, so be on the lookout for that, too.
Yes, it is.
We are planning something. I don't think we're going to do a hike like what we did again. But,
Nope.
Yeah, I would recommend against that.
I would also recommend against that.
I would do it again.
You're an animal. I wouldn't.
I would do one where we're walking on dirt and not sugar sand.
I would do one with a bicycle
Yeah.
or
Something
a
like that.
motorized longboard, electric
Yeah.
longboard with off-road tires or something. That'd be kind of neat, but I am
That's
not.
one wheel. Yeah, I don't have one wheel money.
So I do have one last remark actually.
He was right. He was right.
He was. I think we should definitely do another camping trip, but I think this time it should be more so orientated towards cooking.
Ooh,
Slash
I like
catching
that.
the-
I like that.
or
Yeah.
steak or
Solid.
something.
Solid.
Luckily, there's some good areas, and honestly, I've mentioned it before with Alex. It would be really sick nasty to go over to the Gulf side, assuming that's still there. I'm sorry, that wasn't funny. But there are some cool areas that
My
seem
God.
like that would be really cool for doing some kayak fishing, catching, and then also, some camping and do some catch and cook. I've never fished over there in the Gulf somehow.
Yeah.
I even just went to Tampa a month ago. Didn't fish. Went for the Korn concert. Sick nasty. Let's go Jira. But I'd like to. I'm sure we'll at some point be able to get on a cool fishing little excursion like that.
Yeah.
But luckily, there's still places like that around here, so
Yeah.
we do have some options.
All right, you guys, that'll do it for us tonight here at the 904 Fishing Podcast. Again, we'll see you guys next week, and until next time, keep your casts long, your lines tight, and your stories true. We'll see you guys out there.
Everyone have a good one. Be safe.